Listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio AM 820 brings you Family Sanctuary, a show that inspires living the gospel message in word and deed within our families. And now, Family Sanctuary with host Peggy Hartshorn.
Welcome to our program, Family Sanctuary, focusing on life-giving relationships and the family. I'm your host, Peggy Hartshorn, chairman of Heartbeat International, that advances life-affirming pregnancy help around the world. And today I've got a program that I think you will find fascinating and eye-opening, actually. We don't have a lot of programs specifically on pregnancy help, but this one certainly is. And it's about something that you may not be aware of. The whole landscape of abortion has really changed dramatically in the last couple years in this country and around the world, particularly because abortion is now available by pill. All right, the abortion pill, which is RU486, that has changed everything. And actually, there, as always, when there is evil, God can bring about good and does bring about good. So not only do we have the abortion pill, but recently we have a new option for women, a life-saving option for them and their babies, abortion pill reversal. There actually is a way to reverse the action of that abortion pill. So that's what we're going to be focusing in on today. It's really amazing, fascinating, and a story of God's providence for sure. But the woman that's going to be sharing with us, Christa Brown. Welcome, Christa, to the program.
Hello, Peggy. Glad to be here.
Good to have you. And Christa, let me introduce you. Christa is a nurse, and she serves as the Director of Medical Impact and oversees the Abortion Pill Rescue Network. There is such a thing, the Abortion Pill Rescue Network, at Heartbeat International. She has worked for pregnancy help organizations for over 20 years, bringing diverse experience to the Abortion Pill Rescue Network. She served as a nursing director and executive director of 3 centers in Indiana and Michigan. She's been in all kinds of roles for pregnancy help. Quite a diverse resume, and you really have a heart, Christa. The most important thing is that you truly believe in educating and empowering women to make healthy choices in their pregnancy. You've got a real heart for women, and I know our listeners will hear that as you're speaking. You've been married for almost 30 years, have 5 children and 7 grandchildren. That's hard to believe, Christa. I haven't seen you specifically in your role as grandma. I can't believe it. You seem so young to me. Yeah. But, well, tell us, Christa, there's so much to share. Let's expand on what I was mentioning in the beginning. I'll let you expand a little bit about how the abortion pill has really changed everything. What is the pill? And it's quite dangerous. What are the dangers of it for women?
Sure. So it's important to understand how the abortion pill works and what it is in order to understand what reversal is. But the abortion pill is a type of non-surgical abortion. So there's surgical abortion and there's non-surgical. So you might have heard it called RU46, medical, medication, or chemical abortion. We kind of prefer the term chemical abortion because medical or medicine or medication, it sort of implies some kind of healing is taking place. And we know that with these drugs, these chemicals, the only purpose behind them really is to end the life of that preborn child. And also another thing to mention is that it's different than the morning after pill or Plan B, because with chemical abortion, with the abortion pill, the woman knows that she's pregnant and she's seeking an abortion. She's not trying to prevent a pregnancy. She knows she's pregnant and she's seeking an abortion. Chemical abortion today accounts for 50%, about 50% in the U.S. of all abortions. And we know that number is increasing. It's very cost-effective for those that are providing it, and it's advertised as more convenient to women as opposed to the surgical abortion. So in some cases, women can, be more inclined to go with the chemical abortion route rather than the surgical abortion. So there are 2 medications involved. So really it should be called abortion pills, not just abortion pill, because there are 2 steps and 2 pills. Usually the first medication is taken at the abortion clinic. The woman usually pays for her abortion unless at the clinic, unless she buys the medication online or goes through a telehealth method of getting her chemical abortion. She has an ultrasound to confirm the dating, and then she's given that first pill to swallow with some water right there at the clinic. But the abortion doesn't actually take place there. That's just the initial part of this kind of abortion. So that first medication is called mifepristone, and it works to lower progesterone in the mother's body. So these are unsafe levels during pregnancy, so it's destabilized that pregnancy.
So progesterone is one of the natural hormones in a woman's body that really increases when she becomes pregnant, right?
Correct.
And it really is helps build up the lining of the uterus so that little embryo, that little tiniest form of the baby, can implant into the lining of the uterus, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we need progesterone when we're pregnant to keep that rich environment in the uterus so that the baby can implant there and start to grow and develop. And so the first drug is an anti-progesterone. It cuts off the progesterone, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when that progesterone is at an unsafe level, which is not natural in pregnancy, the body thinks it's not pregnant anymore, and then the uterus can start to contract. The placenta may stop developing, so the nutrients, oxygen baby needs might not be there, and the cervix can start to open. So all of these things puts the life of the baby immediately at risk after that first medication.
Right. So that medication is directly interfering with, shall we say, beautiful God's plan, the beautiful natural plan of that uterus being a welcoming environment and the mother's body producing that very wonderful hormone, progesterone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
But then there's a second medication called misoprostol, and that's given to her to take at home about 48 hours later. And this medication causes the uterus to cramp and expel the baby. From that point, there can be a lot of pain and bleeding. Sometimes the first medication causes some cramping and bleeding, but the misoprostol is really what causes the more extreme pain and bleeding.
Right. So this is basically a drug that is kind of forcing labor to take place early.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Contractions of the uterus and really forcing the baby to be expelled. But as you say, this now takes place generally in the woman's home and most often in her bathroom. That this is what women tell us.
Yeah, that is wherever the woman is. So that could be her bedroom, her bathroom, her dorm room if she's in college. It's advertised commonly as abortion in the privacy of your own home, and that can seem very appealing because you want that privacy and you don't want anyone to know what's happening possibly, but it can be a very frightening experience when women are having abortions in their own home.
And from the stories I've heard, Krista, so many of these women are alone when this happens. Sometimes they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, they're trying to keep the pregnancy a secret. They feel abandoned anyway. Which is one thing that often leads to abortion, the feeling of abandonment for the people around them that should be there and supporting and taking care and walking with them in this pregnancy. So, yeah, they often choose to be alone because that's how they feel. And then they have to suffer through this alone and not expecting at all, from, again, the stories we've heard, not expecting the amount of pain and bleeding, and it's quite traumatic, I know, from the stories that I've heard.
Absolutely. And often what we've seen in the advertising for chemical abortion, it sort of advertises kind of a benign, some have even said inducing your period, which isn't medically accurate. But the what women expect to experience isn't always what happens. It also diminishes, the way it's advertised, in my mind, it diminishes that physical, psychological, and spiritual effects that abortion might have on the woman after she goes through this experience.
Right. She has no expectation that she's going to have many effects at all from it, of course. It's just as simple as taking a pill.
Absolutely.
Before we move into more about the dangers and then the good news of the abortion pill reversal, I think it's really interesting that there are only, I believe, about 14 medications that the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, Food and Drug Administration, that the FDA has listed what they call REMS, which are specific requirements for the provision of these drugs because they do have such, or can have, such difficult side effects and ramifications. And the abortion pill is one where that's why, as you said, the first pill is supposed to be given actually in an abortion clinic or by a doctor so they can explain all of the ramifications of the pill. But of course now there are many people trying to do away with that so that women don't even need to talk to a doctor before they take the pill, even though the pill is like I say, one of only 14 drugs that has specific REMS attached. To me, that's amazing how the abortion industry will, that obviously we know, Christa, from being involved in this for so many years, there's no real care for the woman. It's a money-making proposition. And so women go into this blindly. And often now, the pill is even available online, as you mentioned. So it's getting to be a more and more dire situation for women out there who are being sold the pill. And so I thank God for the abortion pill reversal. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And one thing that the REMS does, if the woman goes to a clinic, there can be some kind of evaluation of her body, of her intentions. Is she being coerced into this decision? Is the baby actually within the guidelines that the FDA has set forth that it's safe? So there's so many precautions that will be overlooked if the REMS is, in fact, permanently revoked. So the REMS is in place to protect women, to try to keep them a little bit safer in this process. Now, it isn't always effective in keeping everyone safe, of course, not the babies, but removing that removes other steps that are really important to keeping women safe in this process.
Right. So this is really almost another subject in itself. What is being done to try to make the pill even more easily available, which is so dangerous for women and of course, so dangerous for the babies. But tell us now about the option of abortion pill reversal, which is just amazing.
For sure. So if we can intervene early enough after a woman has started a chemical abortion, usually within that first 72 hours after she's taken that first medication, that mifepristone, we can actually save the life of the baby after mom has taken that first medication. And what we do is we supplement with that same hormone that we just talked about, progesterone. So abortion pill reversal involves emergency ongoing doses of that progesterone to counteract the effects of that first medication. So we reverse the effect of that first medication by supplementing the woman's body with the progesterone because the levels have been lowered to unsafe levels in pregnancy. And the progesterone we give mom is the same as what's made naturally by her. It's identical to what the mother's body makes during pregnancy. And it's important to note that progesterone was FDA approved over 20 years ago. It's used safely and effectively daily by physicians around the world to prevent miscarriage and preterm birth. So some women just are naturally low on progesterone. But with chemical abortion, it's an artificially induced low progesterone level. So this process has been used since the 1950s to help women preterm delivery. But this is just a new way to use that same medication in a similar life-saving way. So you were saying, Christa, it's been used since the 50s to really help women who are in the process of a miscarriage, right? Correct. When their progesterone levels drop, this perfectly safe drug, which is I don't even want to call it a drug, a hormone, which is identical to what the woman is making in her body, really has helped women for 70 years in helping them to continue their pregnancies. So now we're using it in a very safe way to counteract that anti-progesterone. Before I want Christa for you to explain how the network works. There's a network of providers that can prescribe that progesterone and help the woman reverse that abortion. But before we get to the Abortion Pill Rescue Network, let me reintroduce our guest. And thank you again, Christa, for being with us. Christa is a nurse, and she's the Director of Medical Impact, and she oversees the Abortion Pill Rescue Network at Heartbeat International. And so, Christa, tell us about the actual network. Well, maybe
maybe before we get to how the network works, share with us a story or two about how this really works in real life. Some women who have actually gone through the abortion pill reversal, and what did they do, and what was the effect, and how did it impact them?
Sure. So there's a recent story of a mom who called on Mother's Day, ironically on Mother's Day.
Wow.
And she called very much in a panic, which isn't unusual for our calls, just as when any of us make a decision and we realize this was a really important decision and this is not the way I wanted it to go, there's that anxiety involved. But if you can imagine, the life of her child is at risk. So that heightens the anxiety even more when she realizes, not only did I make a decision that I'm not satisfied with, this really isn't the way I wanted things to go, the life of her child is at risk. So there can be a lot of anxiety, especially at the beginning of the call. So this mom was in a bit of a panic. She's a medical professional, so she knew full well what was happening in her body. She had started her abortion on Friday, her chemical abortion on Friday evening, and she was having deep regret. She didn't want to complete her abortion on Mother's Day with her other children present. It really brought home to her the ramifications of this choice that she had made. So on Friday, she was absolutely sure that this was the best decision for her and her family, but by Sunday morning, she was absolutely sure she wanted to continue her pregnancy. And I think that's an important thing to know, is that sometimes we're just so sure, and that doesn't mean it was necessarily the right decision for us. So women often regret abortions, and sometimes that regret sets in right away, which is very common in these calls. So we explained reversal, and we answered her questions just as we do when women call. Never is anyone obligated to continue with the reversal process. Anyone who has started a chemical abortion is always welcome to call, talk to one of our nurses, and just get that information they need so they can make the best choice possible for everyone involved in that pregnancy. So now it's Sunday morning, it's Mother's Day, and there's a challenge of finding a provider in her area. But within an hour, she had her progesterone to start the process of saving the life of her little one.
Wow.
The next day, we received a message and with a little ultrasound picture with that little baby, and she was so pleased to show us that the baby's heart was beating, and we were told that reversal was going very well.
Oh, wonderful.
And then a couple weeks later, we got another message that the baby was continuing to grow and doing well. And these are the words she sent us, Peggy. This is just beautiful. Calling APR was the best decision I've ever made. He means everything to me. I'm so thankful for this organization. I wouldn't have known what to do otherwise.
Wow.
And so she just needed someone to connect her with the help that she needed, and that's what our nurses do so well on Abortion Pill Rescue Network. But this is just one mom, and so we have many more, and I get the joy of hearing so many of the stories and seeing the little faces. But there have been, statistics show there have been more than 1,000 lives to date that have been saved through the abortion pill reversal process, and that number continues to grow. So this baby's just one of 1,000.
Wow, that is a amazing that she called on Mother's Day, and of course that day would bring up all of the maternal instincts and the love she had for her other children, and it just reminds me of how desperate women most often feel when they decide to have an abortion. It's often a desperation that they just don't see how they can handle a situation or a problem, or they don't have the care and support and the love that they need to continue the pregnancy. That's what they're thinking. How can I do this on my own? Or and yet God planted that maternal instinct so deeply in us that the timing is amazing.
For sure.
Yeah, what a beautiful. So that was just this year. The baby has not yet been born, right?
No, not born, but doing well, going
That's great.
well. Yeah.
So you said sometimes there's a challenge in finding a provider near the woman. Yay, God, in this case, you were able to find a provider and she could have the progesterone within an hour. If there are people listening who are medical providers, who are the providers in the Abortion Pill Rescue Network? And we need more, right? How can they find out and become a provider?
Yeah, so we need hospitals and doctors throughout the world to be available when the women call us. So we are connecting them with a provider in their area that can start this process and help save the life of that baby. Any provider interested to get more information, they can email us at info@apr.life. That LIFE is the end of that email.
Let me get that again. Info
at apr.life.
apr.life. Info@apr.life if you are a provider. And providers would be doctors and nurses, is that correct?
It would doctors or nurse practitioners, anyone that can prescribe progesterone.
Okay.
And then our website for providers is aprnworldwide.com. aprnworldwide.com. Correct.
So they could go to that website to get more information?
They can go get more information, and there's also a place to enroll. If they're ready to enroll in our network, they can go ahead and enroll on that website, but they're also welcome to get more information from us before they do that.
We'll give those websites at the very end again. And Christa, what about women who have taken the abortion pill or are having all these conflicting emotions after they've taken the pill? How do we reach them? How are they being reached now? And then how do they get help?
Sure. So if women have started chemical abortion and they're having regret, like I said, there is no obligation when you contact us. They can get the information they need to make the best choice possible, but they can go to our website, which is abortionpillreversal.com. If you just search abortion pill reversal, you'll find us.
Okay.
But you can go to our website. There's live chat available on that for women, or they can call our hotline, or they can email one of our nurses. So there's kind of three ways that they can contact us. The hotline number is 877-558-0333, or they can email a nurse at help@apr.life.
Did you say help? H-E-L-P?
H-E-L-P at apr.life, or they can go to our website, abortionpillreversal.com,
and I
there's
suppose
live chat available on our website, and all that information is on our website.
On the website.
Also.
So the easy thing to remember is abortion pill reversal, because if you just Google that or search that, you'll find all those other ways of connecting, live chat or phone or email. And it does amaze me how, I've heard some of these stories, of course, other stories besides the one you've shared, how women just sometimes they take that first pill in the abortion clinic, or they keep it in their mouth till they get to their car, hoping that they won't swallow it. But after they do swallow it, they immediately start regretting and start searching on their phone. I've heard these stories. It just amazes me how many women, again, that instinct of that protecting your baby is so strong. And yet, again, our hearts go out that they feel so desperate that they end up in a clinic or have bought something online, to end their pregnancy. So I'm just so thankful that the nurses are available, obviously, that are talking to these women on the phone, the doctors, the providers. And then, of course, we try to connect them to a pregnancy help center, right? To
Absolutely.
Walk with them for the rest of that pregnancy.
Absolutely. Because all the help that they need is going to be available through that center. So if the center doesn't provide it, they know the referrals in the community that do offer those services. So we connect every caller with a pregnancy center in her area also.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And that's through Heartbeat's Option Line, right? Optionline.org. Yeah. So, it just amazes me how, of course, Option Line, our 24/7 call center, has been there since 2003. But it amazes me how God has used that and used the whole pregnancy help network, which has been developing in this country since the late 60s. Actually, the very first centers came out in the late 60s, and then of course grew very quickly after Roe v. Wade in 1973. But we have a whole network established, 3,200 sites around the country, around the U.S., and of course thousands more around the world, where there is concrete pregnancy help available. And we've got the technology now to connect that whole network electronically. Very quickly, we can find help for someone all over the world. And so we were ready, we were prepared, for this onslaught of the abortion pill, and could very quickly provide help for women. And now even the reversal of the abortion pill, which is just to me a tremendous gift that God has provided, the technology, the medical knowledge, the medical providers, the network of care, and it's just a beautiful package of care.
It is. And Peggy, there are quite a few pregnancy centers that actually offer abortion pill reversal as a medical service in their center, which is amazing because a woman can go, she can have the reversal, she can get the ultrasound, all of those services free of charge, and have the support she needs ongoing throughout her pregnancy.
Absolutely, and that is occurring right now in the Diocese of Columbus, in the state of Ohio, where most of our listening audience is, but happening all over the United States as well. So, Christa, give those websites again, would you, for providers and for people who might just want to know more about it and know how they could support it?
Okay, so our main website for clients is abortionpillreversal.com.
Okay.
And it has some stories on there. It has information. It has the helpline, the emails. It has a lot of information for someone who's having regret after starting a chemical abortion.
Okay.
And then we have a site for providers, which is aprnworldwide.com.
aprnworldwide.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that the APRN stands for Abortion Pill Rescue Network. Mm-hmm. So it's aprnworldwide.com.
Okay.
And that has information for anyone interested in the network, especially those that might be interested in prescribing abortion pill reversal and helping women reverse the effects of chemical abortion.
And if you look at Heartbeat International's website, heartbeatinternational.org, you can see more stories of women whose lives have been saved and their babies' lives have been saved from chemical abortion, and find out how you can support that too. So, Christa, thank you so much for being with us. And maybe we can do another show in the future to talk more about the lives of women and how they've been impacted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah, so you all have been listening to St. Gabriel Catholic Radio, and archives of Family Sanctuary are found on stgabrielradio.com. We're streaming live on stgabrielradio.com as well, and our program is broadcast at 4 o'clock every Saturday and again at 2 o'clock on Sundays. So join us again to strengthen our families and make them sanctuaries of life as God intends.
Family Sanctuary is a production of listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio, AM 820. Archives of Family Sanctuary with Peggy Hartshorn are available at stgabrielradio.com.